What's up, guys? Welcome back to Think Big with Lasindu, and in this episode I'll be covering few interesting topics. I'll be covering about Trump's tariffs and why China looks so confident with this trade war against USA. And I'll be talking about AI, a lot about AI. I'll be telling you the dark truth behind AI, and I'll be telling you the importance of starting an AI business or getting into AI. And I'm going to give you an AI masterclass on AI prompt engineering and how to use it properly and how to prompt your AI tools properly to get the best out of your AI. As I promised in my previous episode, I'm going to give you an AI feature that does not exist at the moment, but that could change the entire narrative of this world. So stick around. This is Think Big with Lasindu. First, let's start off with Trump's tariffs and why China looks so confident. The thing is this. Why you need to understand why China is playing chess while the West, the US, is playing checkers. Because everyone's talking about this US-China trade war like a fair fight, but I believe that China is already a couple of steps ahead in this fight. But at the same time, I understand why Trump needs to do this. I feel like Trump has put all these tariffs, all the countries around the world, targeting one customer, which is China. And why China is responding the way that it does, I believe China has put 125% tariff on US and US has put 140 or something like that. Don't quote me on the numbers. I have lost track of those numbers because they just keep on going back and forth on these numbers, on these percentages. But I understand why China is doing what it's doing. So there are multiple things that you need to consider. The number one is being the long-term vision that China has, because it's the long-term vision and the short-term politics, right? Because the China, when do you think that China is going to have their next presidential election? I don't know. I have absolutely no idea, because probably never. But while the Western countries, the US, has elections, that they are playing this 4-year election cycle. And on top of that, the midterm is coming. In 16 months, Trump could lose the midterm. So literally they are playing these short-term political cycles. So it's really difficult to have certain policies or certain terms for a longer time period when you're playing with these four-year political cycles, because if the next person, whoever comes to the president as the president of the United States, does not follow these terms or does not follow these policies, it doesn't make sense. And this is what Putin also says, like US is playing these 4-year political cycles, so it's really difficult for the world to keep up with all these terms and policies because they just keep on changing. Whoever comes next is going to change the next thing again and again and again. So US just keep on backing off from their words, whereas China is playing a long game. And I feel like China knows that they can afford to lose some customers within the short term period of the 4 years or even 16 months apart from the midterm, just for the longer game, because China is playing the longer game. They are willing to bleed now to win later, because they don't need permission from a divided parliament to do that. And the second thing is the centralized control that China has with zero distractions, because Beijing controls all the media, all the messaging, all the unrest pretty much, and they don't have no viral protest, no economic panics, because their full focus is on end game. And I feel like that is a kind of a superpower that China has, because US, they had to play this whole democratic game, whereas China is not playing that game. So that is kind of an advantage that they have. Two other biggest advantages that China has is their manufacturing ecosystem. That is basically irreplaceable. It's going to be really, really difficult, because even with the rising cost or whatever. Like, companies can't just exist without China, because the infrastructure that they have created, that's in that scale, the logistics and everything, it's unmatched. You can't, like, you pretty much can. So, like, for example, just think about this. Okay, people think if you take EV cars, electric cars, okay, like, US has Elon, like Tesla and all this stuff. And I saw Chamat talking about this. So this is exactly why I'm going to take the same example. So yeah, American made all that stuff, good. Then Elon gets these batteries from another US company. It's manufactured in US. All the batteries, okay, like, these EV batteries, Elon buys from a US company, US manufactured, all made in US, good, done. But this battery company needs this magnet to manufacture these batteries. And who create those magnets? China. So Elon manufactures all these cars from US, and these batteries also from US. And these batteries are also being manufactured 100% in US. But these batteries need this one magnet or whatever, a coil or magnet. I'm just saying, okay, don't quote me on these parts. I'm not a mechanic. This magnet, and these magnets cannot be manufactured in such scale in US, and those are being imported from China. China is leading with those magnets. They are the leading manufacturers for those magnets, and China is putting tariff on those magnets, and boom, everything collapses again. And China stops sending those magnets to US. They don't have batteries. The battery manufacturers can't manufacture those batteries, and boom, it's going to affect Tesla. And what happened to these all US made EV cars? So that manufacturing ecosystem that China has created is just irreplaceable. It's not just like, EV cars. It's pretty much everything, cups, whatever, electronics, plastic, whatever, you name it. That manufacturing ecosystem is irreplaceable. That is a huge problem when it's come to the USA. And on top of that, Trump is talking about bringing a lot of employment into USA. See, this is another problem. Yes, when you bring these manufacturing plants into US, you can bring a lot of employment into US. But who's gonna work? Who are these employees? Because I recently saw this stat. I recently saw an article saying that one of these companies, a battery company, and they wanted to recruit 100,000 engineers, but they were unable to find even 10,000 engineers who are qualified. Because people are studying history and art instead of engineering and becoming stars on TikTok. Becoming TikTok influencers. I'm not saying that, history and art is bad, but what I'm saying is that sort of creates an economical imbalance. Because you study history and art and then you go become a TikTok influencer, whereas you are going to create an economical imbalance. So like there's not enough engineers or whoever to produce those manufacturing, bring those manufacturing jobs into the country. Because yes, technically you could say, okay, you're going to bring all these manufacturing jobs to United States, but then again, who are going to do those jobs? Based on those stats that I saw, there's not enough qualified people to get those jobs. So either they have to replace those jobs with robots and get robots to do those jobs. But again, if that's going to happen, then again, people will not get jobs. So it's a long game that Trump is playing, I believe, but I want to see how this is going to play out, because I also understand Trump is the only person who can make these kind of decisions, take these kind of risk, and see what's going to happen. Because I don't think anybody else, any other US president or like whoever comes next will take such measures, such risk. Because Trump is a businessman and he knows how to work on deals. So because of that, he's willing to take those risks and see how it's going to play out and sort of pivot and do the things that what matters. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I'm really curious. I'm looking into these things every single day. I'm reading articles, watching videos, and all this stuff about this issue. And the other fact is China, they own the minerals everybody needs. Like the rare earth minerals, power, everything like phones, EV, military tech. China controls most of it. And this is a weapon that China still, they haven't weaponized it yet. But that is a huge leverage that they have. And also there's BRICS. China is trying to kill the dollar with Russia, Brazil, and all these countries. And also, China is going to become a tech independence. That's like their golden ticket as well, because America tried to kill Huawei, and China's response, go all in on self-resilience. They are trying to win the ultimate game, because US is colluding with all these military complex centers and like trying to fight all these Russia-Ukraine wars and Palestine-Israel wars and all this stuff. China is gonna trying to achieve the global tech dominance and become the independence. Like they are like especially with semiconductors, AI, green energy, 6G. If they achieve the global dominance in those industries, semiconductors, AI, green energy, and 6G, it's the game over. China wins. You cannot stop China. Nobody can stop China if they do that. And I don't want that to happen either. I don't want just one country to have a huge monopoly. I feel like at one point US has that. I feel like sometimes US is trying to achieve that. I like the competition because the competition is healthy. I always believe in competition in terms of business as well. But who knows what's going to happen. But I'm curious to see what's going to happen and how things are going to be handled. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. The next topic I want to talk to you about is AI. And I'm going to tell you exactly why it is really important to get into AI. And if you want to start your own thing or build your own business, I am telling you guys, in 2025, the best business to start is AI. AI automation agency, AI chatbot creation, AI voice agents. There are multiple AI businesses that you could get into, but it is the most important thing. And if you don't want to get into AI business, just look into online businesses. See, this is the thing. With these Trump's tariffs and also people need to understand, if you get into this, I mean, I'm not saying anything against product-based businesses or anything. We have to have that. But I would argue if you're starting from zero, your best bet would be an online-based business. Because when you're running an online-based business, it doesn't matter whoever puts tariffs on wherever, whatever the taxes or wherever. Even it doesn't matter, even the income tax, whatever the tax, it doesn't matter. Because understand this, the beauty of online business is you are not pinned to a single location. For an example, I'm living in Sydney, Australia, and I'm doing an online business. I'm starting an AI business, and if all of a sudden the government and of the state of New South Wales decided, all right, I'm gonna put a 50% tax on all AI businesses or whatever in New South Wales, good, fine. I'm gonna take off my business and register it in Dubai. In Dubai, no one tax. There's no taxes. Good. So my invoices and everything is gonna come from Dubai because I'm not pinned and I don't have huge stress or huge headache. Okay, now I have to move my manufacturing plants. How am I going to do the logistics and blah blah blah? All this stuff. Nothing. Zero. In a day, I can move my business from Sydney to Dubai, Dubai to Cape Town, Cape Town to London, London to US, Miami, wherever I want. In a day, I can move my business all around the world. Doesn't matter where. So that is the beauty of doing an online business. And I feel like if you want to start a business in 2025, the best businesses that get into is with AI and AI related businesses. We all are using ChatGPT, right? I'm pretty sure most of you guys are using ChatGPT every day for a lot of tasks. But I want you to understand that most of you guys are using ChatGPT wrong. Think of it like this. You go to Starbucks and ask for a coffee. Hey, can I get a coffee? And you will get a coffee. You'll get an Americano or a long black or whatever. No milk, no sugar, no fancy syrups, nothing. But that's not what you wanted. What you wanted was an almond milk flat white with 2 hazelnut syrup pumps. But you just went and asked for a coffee. So you are going to go again and ask for a flat white. And you are going to get a flat white. But again, not what you wanted. You got a flat white, but not with almond milk. There's no hazelnut syrup. Nothing. And for the third time, you are going to go and ask, I need an almond milk flat white with 2 pumps of hazelnut syrup. And now you're going to get exactly what you wanted. With AI, it is the same freaking thing. You have to prompt it properly in order to get the best outcome. You can't just be like, okay, give me 5 content ideas in fitness. It'll give you 5 content ideas, but not exactly what you wanted. So you need to prompt it properly. You have to give it a role. You have to give it certain objectives. You have to explain the task properly and the outcome that you want. For an example, let's take a social media example. You're going to be like, okay, I want you to give me 5 YouTube titles for my video about fitness. It'll give you 5 titles, but basic titles. If you prompt it in a different way, you give it a role, you assign a role. I want you to act as an expert in YouTube platform who can create viral YouTube titles and descriptions using keywords for my video about. Now you're going to give small description about the video, the target audience and everything. And I want you to give me 5 YouTube titles and a YouTube description for this video. And that result that you're going to get going to be far different from the previous result that you got saying that I want you to give me just 5 titles for my fitness video, whatever. So understand that when you're prompting, you need to assign a role, define your task, define the objectives, and finally give what's the outcome that you want, what's the output that you want. I'm going to repeat myself. Assign a role, define the task, define the objectives, and the outcome that you want. AI prompt engineering is another skill. It's a different kind of skill, and you need to master it to get the best outcome of AI. So like keep on doing that, keep on practicing that. Eventually you will get the habit of it. But at the beginning, you are going to be like, what the hell? Like, I feel like I'm just like, talking to a robot. Yeah, you are pretty much. Get used to it. That's going to be the future. I want to end this episode with my AI feature. The AI feature that I want to talk about is an AI history filter. So imagine this. I've always had this thing in my mind. I've always had this issue. How we look into history, absorb this information based on someone's perspective. For an example, if you read a book about Adolf Hitler, and they just keep on saying that Adolf Hitler is a bad person and blah, blah, whatever. And you will absorb that history. You will understand, okay, this is what Adolf Hitler did. And he's not a good person. He has killed millions and millions of people and all these things. Based on one person's perspective. And there could be so many other things that may have happened that we don't know about this history. We know that author's perspective by reading that book. So that I've always questioned history in that way. Like, do we even know everything about history? Yes, I understand. If we go in this 1950s or 1940s, we have certain documents and we have multiple authors writing multiple books. So like someone could argue saying, yeah, okay, but about Hitler, there are multiple books, different authors' perspectives, and try to combine all those things and get a like proper overview of that history. Okay, fine, I get it. I get that point. But if you go further, what do we know about Genghis Khan? What do we know about Cleopatra? What about that history? We don't know much, right? We may know like few things. Like if you look into Genghis Khan, we haven't even seen Genghis Khan. There's this one portrait of wearing this white color robe or whatever, and like, is that actually the Genghis Khan? Maybe it's completely different person, but we have been believing to be Genghis Khan. Who can prove that? Nobody. So this is the AI history filter that I'm talking about. Imagine even right now, because the thing is this, right? Imagine if there's a feature that filters the history that we learn, and that sort of like goes or passes to the future. Like for an example, our kids, like school kids, only learn the approved version of certain events, the approved version of the history based on political or national or corporate preferences. I don't know, whatever. Right? So like imagine, so there's an AI feature that governments can control or whatever. So the history is being erased. The history is erased because people wouldn't know, and they will be erased the history, like, because yes, at the beginning people may argue about it, like for an example, if you take about the Trump's tariffs and whatever, and 15 years down the line, like there's this AI features already built, people trying to like erase certain history, certain books, certain articles and all this stuff, like erase from online and everywhere from the planet of Earth. Yeah, people could argue, we would know what happened. But when we die in another 50 years or 60 years time, whatever the government planted based on that AI feature will be the truth, will be the reality. And that's pretty scary, because understand this, if you control information, you control the future. And that is the war that we are already in. People are already controlling information. That's what's happening with media. Media is controlling all these narratives. So it's not a new thing. In the present world, it's happening. Media, this mass media already controlling information, and people are like, biting into this information. But I'm just trying to take one step further with AI, and if AI can filter off the history also and change the narrative of history also, then it's going to become a whole new game. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, I'm not going to talk more about it, but I want you guys to think about it. What could happen if there was an AI feature like this? And again, if y'all have any problems or anything related to AI or whatever that I'm talking about, always feel free to drop me a message or drop a comment. I will reply to all the messages and all the comments. And make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on all social media platforms, Instagram, X, and everywhere else. And as always, stay sharp, stay humble, and think big.